welcome to Ripe Rights / Ripe Talks. Let's go with Ripe Rights for now, because I feel like that's just the way to do it. I'm tired of saying two names like an idiot. Alright. Today, I felt like dressing up and putting on this dress shirt. I don't know, I felt the vibes today. I don't usually have to wear I don't have to wear dress shirts at work, but you know what, for YouTube?
Anything.
I figured the best way to actually look and improve our writing and understand techniques is to actually analyze a book. We're going to be looking at The Silent Patient, okay, by Michaelides. I hope. Okay. So, this book, I'm going to analyze it from one perspective only, which is pacing. This book is exceptionally good at pacing, and there are a few reasons as to why Alex, our boy Alex, successfully accomplishes a very quick pace. I'm going to go through 3 of the main reasons and then talk about how you can also accomplish fast pacing in your novels. Now, the reason why fast pacing is really good for his book is because it's a psychological thriller, so you automatically want fast pacing. The reason why you want fast pacing, generally speaking, you should want fast pacing for any book because it keeps the reader engaged, but the reason you want it for this genre, which is a psychological thriller, is because you're supposed to keep people engaged and you want to create a sensation of quickness, speed, a little bit of uncertainty, excitement, arousal. So anything like that's going to incite fear is going to be a form of arousal, and fast pacing does that really well. Okay, so the number one thing I want to take a look at is the length of his chapters, well, in The Silent Patient. See, even this guy in the front by David Baldacci says, the pages will burn with friction from your hands turning them. So see, pacing is a major aspect of why people praise this novel in the first place. Okay, so if you look at his chapters, and I'm going to try to show you. So chapter 1, right, that's where it starts. You're looking at 1 page, okay, you're looking at 2 pages, bam, you're in chapter 2 already. That is incredible. That's the first chapter, and they say that first chapter is the most important, so it's a massive consideration, the fact that he spent literally 2 pages, well, front and back, on the first chapter. Then here, you're in chapter 2, 1 page, 2 pages, okay? You've already hit chapter 3, all right? So psychologically, pun intended, or I guess relationship intended, this kind of creates an impetus for the reader to keep turning those pages. Chapter 3, one more time, 1 page, okay? 2 pages, 3 pages, he's really pushing the boundaries here. Bam, you're in chapter 4. Are you freaking kidding? And it's not like the font is exceptionally small. You know what I'm talking about? So let's just keep going and see if these lengths vary as towards the end of the novel. So once again, you're in chapter 4. 1 page. 2 pages. This dude is not wasting time. He's not here for a long time, okay? Chapter 5, it's a YOLO type of book. 2 pages, and at the end you have a little bit of on the 3rd page, and then bam, chapter 6. Now, as you can see, these chapters are a lot shorter than other books tend to have. Now let's look random spot towards the middle of the novel. Let's see if this varies. So I'm gonna hit chapter 16, okay? So now we're in chapter 16, okay? Get ready. 1, okay, 2. Bam, you're in chapter 17. You almost get whiplash. Like, you're like, whoa, that's exceptionally short. It's just very short. Okay, so for I guess posterity and just to reference the book correctly. Okay, chapter 17, right? Ready for this? You might, if you blink, you might miss it. 1, 2, you're done. You know, and this keeps going, and let's just complete the cycle towards the end of the book. Random spot. I'm choosing a random chapter. Chapter 30, right? Chapter 30, ready? Just so I show you, I'm not making this up. I'm like a magician, you know. 1 page, okay. 2 pages. 3 pages. This guy caps it off at 3. It's almost like he just has nothing more to say. He's like, that's it. That's all you need. So okay, so I want to specify, very, very quick, literally, you have to turn the pages to keep going. you feel like you can complete a chapter very easily. And I would argue this is probably a very good strategy, not just for psychological thrillers, but for our current generation, where we have a very short attention span due to social media, due to a lot of dopamine releasing activities that, you know, we kind of want our instant gratification, right? We want that notification, we want that message, we want to hear that. We want to kind of respond in a Pavlovian fashion, right? And we want that dopamine release. So if you're writing in this generation, from what I've seen so far in my literary explorations, you should go for shorter chapters for this very reason. It's actually a very effective strategy, and I can personally attest to the fact that it works really well. I mean, I was enthralled right away. And of course, this is controlling all other variables. If you're writing as garbage, it does not matter how many chapters you write, how short they are. If it's not good, people won't be excited to read it. That's the truth. And of course, there's a reader-friendly book, so don't worry about my personal statements. But if you're not writing for the reader in your genre, then that in and of itself can qualify as a shitty chapter, okay? So if you're not writing accordingly, no matter how short you make your chapters, you're going to struggle with readership and engagement. However, if you have good writing, that's one way to create a fast pace. It's just to have shorter chapters and make them very engaging right off the bat, and you can maintain the consistency so that people know that, okay, I'm going to read one chapter of this book and it's going to be very fulfilling. I'm going to feel like I did something, I completed it. It's going to give me that dopamine rush and I'll feel good and whatever. And then usually people will be roped into reading more than one chapter. So really good strategy. That's the one way he creates a fast pace. Okay, number dos, okay? The way he creates a fast pace, let's just use his name, Alex. I could actually use his last name, like Mr. No, I can't pronounce it. I'm going to butcher it again. Once is enough for one video. So another thing that he does to create his fast pace is the way he writes, okay? So this is obvious way, but on a more micro level, the way he writes his sentences, they're very staccato, they're very sharp, and he doesn't mess around with lots of extensions, okay? So I'm just gonna read you maybe a random passage. Let's do that so it's a little bit more scientifically valid. So let's do this one, random passage once again. And of course his writing is going to vary with what he's trying to convey, but generally speaking he keeps it short. Okay, so random passage, I literally opened it, this one. Okay, so I'm going to read to you. I remembered the flicker of doubt I'd had upon meeting her friends. They were all actors, loud, narcissistic, preening, and endlessly talking about themselves and people I didn't know. Suddenly, I was transported back to school, hovering alone on the fringes of the playground, watching the other kids play. I convinced myself Kathy wasn't like them at all, but clearly she was. If I had encountered them that first night at the bar when I met her, would they have put me off her? No, I doubt it. Nothing could have prevented our union. From the moment I saw Kathy, my fate was written. So, it's very, very fluid, right? But also, if you notice, he doesn't use conjunctions very frequently. So here he says, suddenly I was transported back to school, hovering alone on the fringes of the playground, watching the other kids play. So he doesn't extend that too much. It's very quick. It's like, I was transported, right? He goes, I was transported back to school, hovering alone, watching the other kids play, right? So it's kind of like, I wish I had it's kind of like flipping the, what are those things called? You know, when you're looking through, they're not a kaleidoscope, but
I guess they're, you know when you see those images, you know, that initially that was like the form of video they had, and then
you click it and the image shifts. It's kind of like that effect, right? I wish I knew the term. So it's like bam, 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 right? And the lack of conjunctions, and conjunctions that would be, an example would be like and, okay? The lack of conjunctions, the use of comma splices as opposed to conjunctions creates that effect. So it goes bam, 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 and it's slicing through. And the images mimic that slicing that the language creates. And then another thing he does is he uses semicolons. So I don't know if you guys can see. Okay, if you want to pause the video, but that's the passage. Okay, hold on. All right, so he uses semicolons when he wants to add on a description. That also creates quickness. And if you see, once again, no conjunctions. He goes, they were all actors, loud, narcissistic, preening, endlessly talking about themselves and people I didn't know. He could have added a conjunction there, right, between preening and endlessly. He could have said, they were all actors, loud, narcissistic preening, and endlessly talking about themselves and people I didn't know. But he didn't. Once again, he removed that because he wants to create the pace of speed. And that's what he accomplishes when he removes the conjunctions. If you also notice, there is a brevity to his sentences. So he goes, if I had encountered them that first night at the bar when I met her, would they have put me off her? I doubt it. So he has a long sentence, but then he gives you a very short one. I doubt it. It's quick, to the point, right? And if you extend beyond this, he goes, nothing could have prevented our union. From the moment I saw Kathy, my fate was written. What should I do? Confront her, of course. So he's using his narration, okay, the protagonist's narration, first person narration, in a very quick way. So even if he does input a slightly longer sentence, he kind of caps it off with a quick, brief sentence, like, I doubt it, what should I do? Confront her, of course. Very quick. These are very sharp. And once again, it creates the pace of speed. And that's another way he accomplishes his very quick pace in the book. And you can see this throughout. I mean, I'm looking at the other page, and things just jump out at me like questions, like, could I call her? That's one sentence. Had she ever loved me? I had to get out. You know, very quick, very, very quick sentences, very brief sentences. Here's another passage that really illustrates that here. I had to get out. I couldn't breathe in here, in this flat with these stinking lilies. I needed some air. I needed to breathe. Once again, he's going bam, 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 right? He's just really hitting it. And once again, there's no conjunction. So if you see that technique, it's used very frequently in his book. And it's an amazing technique. I love it. I love using it all the time for pacing. If you also look, I'm looking at the next page, same thing, the shortness of sentences. I thought of Kathy. The shortness of sentences is very apparent once again here. I didn't reply. Yuri gave me a funny look and left. I was alone. Idiot, I thought to myself. You idiot. What was I doing? I'd pushed her too far, too hard, too soon. It was horribly unprofessional. Not to mention totally fucking inept. It revealed far more about my state of mind than hers. But that's what Alicia did for you. Her silence was like a mirror, reflecting yourself back at you. And it was often an ugly sight. So once again, very quick. If you're noticing here, he goes, I didn't reply. He gave me a funny look and left. I was alone. Bang, you're done. That was one line. Idiot, I thought to myself. You idiot. What was I doing? And this extends it in his whole novel. And that's the pace, that's the tone it creates, that sense of speed. And you're excited to read the next line. It's not dragging on. It's very quick. The third way he creates a very fast pace is balancing narration and dialogue exceptionally well, by making sure you're not overly exhausted by the narrations and you're not overly exhausted by the dialogue either. So one really good example is the following, okay? You can't read this, I'm gonna read it to you, but okay. I'm gonna specify this dialogue and then I'll specify the narration, okay? He goes, as I sit here with you, a picture keeps coming into my mind, an image of someone biting her fist, holding back a yell, swallowing a scream. I remember when I first started therapy, I found it very hard to cry. I feared I'd be carried away by the flood, overwhelmed. Perhaps that's what it feels like for you. That's why it's important to take your time to feel safe and trust that you won't be alone in this flood, that I'm treading water here with you. Narration, silence, dialogue. I think of myself as a relational therapist. Do you know what that means? Narration, silence, dialogue. It means I think Freud was wrong about a couple of things. I don't believe a therapist can ever really be a blank slate as he intended. So this keeps going on, but you see he line breaks very frequently using dialogue, and then he line breaks using narration. And he uses those two to make the dialogue feel less heavy, or to make the narration feel less heavy. And he uses that throughout this whole time, like truly. Next page, I'm gonna do the same kind of analysis. Narration, no response, yet she keeps staring at the ring. Dialogue, you were married for about 7 years, weren't you? Narration, no reply. Dialogue, I love my wife very much. Did you love your husband? Narration, Alicia's eyes moved, they darted up to my face, we stared at each other. Dialogue, love includes all kinds of feelings, doesn't it? Blank, blah, blah. So once again, breaking up the dialogue, breaking up the narration, without reducing the substance of either, as well as the importance. Because if you're adding any type of dialogue, if you're adding any type of narration, it has to be important to the story. You can't just add it in there randomly. Sorry, whoa. I went into like, oh my god. You can't just add it in there randomly. It has to make sense. So he makes sure that what he's adding, there's a point to it. But then he also uses either the narration or the dialogue to break it up and give the reader like a moment of pause and almost like give the reader like a pat on the back for completing the passage or the line itself. So these are the three ways that Michaelides, Jesus. That's okay. Anyway, these are the three ways that he creates pace in his novel, The Silent Patient, and that's why the pacing of the novel is so good, and that's why so many people are in love with it, because it's easy to read and it's fast and it's quick, it's exciting and it's arousing. In the same way that a psychological thriller is meant to arouse fear, right? Same thing. You want to create a state of arousal for your reader. So yeah, I really enjoyed that book. One of my favorite ones that I read this summer for sure. I think it was expertly done, and it has a lot of Freud in there, but also I think it has a more obscure theorist, psychoanalyst. I think it was Lacan, maybe? You're just watching, okay. Well, it has a lot of Greek mythology too, so references to Greek mythology, which I absolutely adore. So it was exciting for me to read. Yeah. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to post a lot of videos this month. I'm doing a bit of an experiment that you'll see at the end of the month. But I post videos on writing and on how to improve writing and techniques that you can use in your fiction to make your fiction really stand out. Subscribe if you want more writing tips, if you want to hear about how my journey is progressing, or if you just want to connect in the writing community. I would love to connect. I also have a bunch of poetry and writing stuff on Instagram, so make sure to follow Instagram. Lastly, I'm thinking of transitioning this channel from my name to more of like Rights, because it is more about writing tips than it is about me, you know. But they have all these tips about like starting a brand for yourself and making yourself marketable and all this crap. So let me know. I honestly would love to hear your opinion. Would you prefer this be Rights, or would you prefer my name? It doesn't even matter. Do you even give a crap? Are you even gonna watch this video until the end? Who knows? These are all the questions I ask myself as I fall asleep at night. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any improvements, any tips. I put a candle in the back. Oops. There. Oops. I screwed up twice. Okay. Wow. Slow learner. What can I say? I put a candle to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Put on the shirt to make it more aesthetically pleasing. I'm doing what I can, people. Okay? We're in a pandemic. I'm really hungry. Gonna go eat something. Bye.